So thank you very much for your time. Sir, I would like to ask some question about rice industry. My first question is that what is the current scenario of Pakistan long grain export?
Thank you, Yasser. Uh, if you ask me directly the question about the Pakistan rice sector and the present status, I think we are in great difficulty at the moment. Our export, which should have been increased at least by 10%, minimum 10%, in first 9 months of this financial year, uh, we we are almost making same 3.5 million ton, uh, which means that we will be at the same level as we were last year. So I think situation is not very good. The other countries they are doing very well. Pakistan rice export is suffering due to some basic structural problem. We are lucky that we have been producing rice. You see, if you look at Pakistan's condition, Pakistan is the country which is not a where the rice is not a food staple. It is the second after wheat that people use rice. Always we produce surplus rice in Pakistan, so that's not a big challenge if you look at the rice sector of Pakistan. I mean, like this year, if you look, the production is increased from 7.2 million ton to 7.6 million ton as compared to last year. It means we have about produced 400,000 metric ton more rice this year. But what does it mean? You see, the consumption of Pakistan consumption is currently reported at 3.2 million ton, which means that we have definitely more than 4 million ton to be exported. So it is not the case that we are exporting at the cost of our own people, like sugar. Once we export, it creates problem for the domestic market, for the domestic consumer. And same has been for the last 3 4 years for the wheat, that once we export it and then shortages start coming in the Pakistan domestic market. So I think we are lucky that rice we have always surplus, and we have been about more than 4 million ton as I told you. Out of this 4 million ton, near about, I think maximum we are doing the export of 1 million ton of basmati. Rather, we are doing less than 1 million ton of basmati. Last time basmati we exported like 1.2 million ton is in 2010 2011. Since that we have not done last year. We have done a good job that we were near about 890,000 metric ton of basmati. Now it means that rest of the export is from non-basmati, which is like 3.5 to 3.8 ton. Production is there, I mean availability is there, but we are unable to compete the other countries, which we will later discuss that was the problem. Uh, so currently, I think this is not a good year, as you asked me. Last year we exported 4.4 billion ton of rice, total rice. This year, I don't think we will be reaching to 4 million even. So there is apparently there is a shortage of 10 to 15 million in the export. Yes, export earning can be like last year because per unit realization of the non-basmati is more than the last year. This year, I believe over per unit or per ton export price will be above 400 $4,000 per ton, while last year it was less than 4,000. So value wise, maybe we will reach the same level as the last year, but quantity wise, I think we will be like 10 to 15% less this year. Uh, Non-basmati, I think. we will be able to cover the quantity also, maybe 1 or 2% less or plus. Uh, so I think all in all, what we lose is the additional amount which we could have achieved because of the demand. I mean, there is a huge demand if you look at the global scenario. Uh, First of all, in Iraq, then in Yemen, there is a huge amount of non-basmati. And then if you go to Africa, Africa near about import 10 million tons of rice. And our export, total export is 4.4 million. So you can see there's a huge potential. Uh, Europe import be about 1.2 million ton total. Out of that, 400,000 is basmati. So 1 million ton scope is already in Europe. But in Europe, actually, we are facing a competition from Vietnam uh, and India also. In United States is a upper and high end market, so non-basmati is very less exported to that region. Uh, Recently, the China is emerging as a good market for Pakistani rice. Uh, we are expecting that so far in 9 months, uh, it is more than double what we exported last year. 9 month figure will be out in a few days, but it is certainly more than double. So that is a new market for Pakistan. Not relatively new market, but Chinese now we have a preferential agreement, so we export that. In the meantime, before 2 years, we signed a preferential trade agreement with Indonesia. Indonesia might be in the market to buy after June, so Pakistan can take advantage of that. So in uh, Southeast Asia, Philippines is another market where we can sell, but we are unable to make inroads, and we are facing difficulty in that area. So I think this area rice export sector and the long grain non-basmati is is not that much good which we were expecting.
Thank you very much for wonderful information. Sir, now I would like to ask another question. How do you compare Pakistan and Indian rice export? How do you compare?
Yeah, I'm glad this is a relevant question because you see, India and Pakistan have same climate condition, same kind of policy, same kind of water availability. So it's a pertinent or relevant comparison between the two countries. You see, India is doing wonderful this year as far as the non-basmati export is concerned. Uh, Almost they have doubled their export from 6 million ton last year to 12 million ton this year. They have just finished the year in on 31st of March. So India is going great gun, and it has surpassed Vietnam. It has overtaken the first position from Thailand. Uh, India has a huge production at the moment. Last year, 118 million ton production they have, which before 2 years it was like 110. So with, looking with the availability, they have quite big surplus, and their carryover stock for food distribution system is also increasing. But that is putting pressure on the government of India, and they have huge stock and they want to liquidate in the international market. But as compared to that, Pakistan, I have told you the Pakistan rice production has increased, but it just increased by 10%, not more than that. Size is very low. 118 million ton India produce, and we produce less than 8, just less than 7.6 million ton last year. So there is a big difference, but still India is exporting huge quantities. Although their domestic consumption is increasing, and there is a need there. Uh, Now, If I look at the comparison, first of all, it is the conducive environment in which the Indian exporters work. You see, non-basmati basically, first of all, what is that? First of all, it is that the government fixed the MSP, I mean minimum support, minimum purchase price. It means the raw material will be available at a constant price. Now, this is very important. If I know that my purchase of raw material will remain same throughout the year, then I can plan for a longer time, for a longer period, 6 months down the line or 8 months down the line. But if your raw material prices, which happens in Pakistan, it fluctuates. So then you cannot plan. So the biggest problem is the fluctuation of procurement price. You can see this year once when long grain on basmati came into the market, it started with 1300 per 40 kg, but then it went to up to 1500 and 1600, and our average was like 1500, 1400 to 1500. So there is a price hike of the about 25-30%, but you cannot increase the asking non-basmati asking export price immediately because there is a stiff competition. So same is happening with Pakistan. That in the initial days we were buying 1300, then 1400, it went then 1500, and then it touched 1600. And I'm sure in Sindh it is more than 1600. So that's a basic difference between the two countries as far as the long range is concerned. The second thing is that Pakistan, this year, although always Pakistan rupee depreciates, but if you look at the start of the season, rice season start in the month of September and end of next year October. In September, Pakistan rupee was being traded like 160, might be plus minus. So we were working on that. I mean, exporter were working that okay, this will be price and this they made the commitment. But then Pakistan rupee started appreciating. And today, if you after 7 months, Pakistan rupee has come down, has got strength that it is 153. It means the Pakistan rupee has almost appreciated by 12%. Now, if those people who made the commitment in the month of December to supply till June this year, they are in a big trouble because their payment in Pak rupee has deteriorated 12%. So the inconsistent inconsistency in the exchange rates and fluctuation in the raw material price is the biggest problem. Second thing is, uh, I must say that it's not that we are saying this against the regulators or the people who are at the helm of affairs, is that we take the decision very slowly. Now you can see in India they decide very quickly. When there was a pandemic, and last year India was only able to export 6 million tons. Now this year because they had huge stock, so what they did, Indian government started depreciating the Indian rupee because their export is $300 billion export they have. Pakistan has just 22 billion dollar export. So they are very concerned. They're always their Ministry of Finance and RBI, Reserve Bank of India, and financial regulator, they are on toes. So once they realize that we have huge stock of rice and at the same time they have good amount of sugar to be in surplus stock, and then they have soybean to be exported, they planned accordingly, and their rupee came from 73.6 to 72 rupees. Even at one time in the month of February, it was being traded at 71. So, and then now today it is 73 point, again it is touching 74. So Indian traders, they are getting better price. So they take that. The second thing is that this year the biggest problem is since the start of our rice sector in September, that availability of the containers in the market is very slow and very low. I mean, because all the containers went to China, and then there was a pandemic, ports were closed, and the labor was not available. Logistic problem were there, in inland logistic problem. So most of the containers stuck up in China, being the huge importer of everything. Now from there, they are not coming back to India, to Pakistan, to Malaysia, I mean, Far East, with that speed which is required here. So what happened is the availability of the container was less, and freight companies, they increased their freight rate. Now it is their decision. Yes, they might be justified, but the question is, what has changed? Is the fuel prices changed drastically? It has not gone up by 50%. Maybe it is 10% increase. What has labor has cost has not increased. Port charges has not been increased. So why the freight of shipping line, they have increased more than double. I mean, if you look, it's more than double at the moment. So the rice exporter, they are facing problem also. So, but you see what our neighbor country did. They gave freight subsidy immediately. That okay, whatever the price has increased in the freight, we give you subsidy for that. Once we export, you put the document, and we will return back. Second thing, uh, exporters were facing liquidity shortage because their money was stuck up in the stock. Export was not being done from their major ports. So Indian, so our neighbor country did two things. The first is circumvention of the interest of last year. Circumvention means that if they extended the loan at 6%, they dropped 2% and said, okay, we will charge you 4%, but 2% government will pay to the bank. So this is one thing. The second thing is that they brought down their interest rate, and they increased the export finance availability for the exporters. So in financial sector and in the trade sector, Indian uh, neighboring country moved very fast. But if you look at Pakistan, we have not done that. Yes, we depreciate the Pakistan rupee. We then we decreased our interest rate and we brought down to 7%. Yes, but that was done before this season started. I mean, before September. So we already took that into our calculation. So in 7 months, uh, not a special package for the rice sector has been announced. Rice sector after textile is the largest sector in Pakistan as a foreign exchange partner with more than $2 billion export. Textile, uh, I believe, was given 900 billion rupees special package, and then they were given 180 billion in the shape of duty and taxes. So overall, 1100 billion uh, rupees package was announced by the government. But for rice, everybody is looking. Our export is not picking up. The government has not taken a step. Uh, all stakeholders in the rice sector are demanding that there should be a subsidy on freight from government side to make up the increased part of the freight. Inland, if you look at the inland freight, I mean, most of cargo is going from uh, Punjab, biggest rice producing area, to Karachi port. The inland cost has increased from $14 to $22 per ton due to increase in fuel prices. So this should have been compensated by the government, but government has not done that. We are not asking that they should give us some extraordinary subsidies because we know that we are under IMF program. But we can do whatever is physically available with us. The second thing is that once you export, you give some incentive like export coupons. What export coupon is that once you export, you get the credit for that, and then equivalent to that you can import duty free. So it doesn't cost anything. Government national exchequer, you are giving the concession on the basis of the export. So I think this should be extended to the rice sector. They should also subvent the interest rate of the last year at least by 2%. And third is that at the moment 7% is being charged state bank for the financing to the bank. At least it should be done reduced half for the rice export purposes. Now why we are asking this? Because we are at a disadvantage with our neighbor. So whatever they have done, if we do like that, so I think then we can compete with India. And this year we can't do much because only 3 months, 2.5 months is left. But I think the next year Indians are very aggressive again because the new financial year has started in the month of April, and they are extending more and more incentive to liquidate their extra stocks. So we should be very aware, otherwise next year again we will face that problem. We have carryover of non-basmati brown grain, and new crop is being planted, and I think crop will be starting in the month of August. So what we will do with that? So I think we should government should take the corrective measures and not financial or taxes or other kind of which I have proposed that give incentive as I told you freight subsidy in freight in inland and outbound also. Then circumvention of the interest rate of the last year and subsidize interest rate this year.
So that was a wonderful comparative analysis of Pakistan and Indian rice industry and export. So now I come to the Pakistan. That is a very crucial question. Is that what are the challenges that Pakistani rice industry is facing currently?
I think Pakistan rice sector is facing multiple challenges. It is not visible to the nation because rice is surplus and there is no shortage in the domestic market. It's export commodity. In export, we are facing a lot of problem. I have already explained that our neighbors are extending the facilities. Production is there. They are working on scale. But uh, apart from other things, you see, there are many things which we have to do. A pre-harvesting stage, which is like goat seed at subsidized rates. Government should have done, can do, because still the planting has started and they will continue for 2 months. So government should have given the subsidy on the seed first of all. Interesting thing is that now in Pakistan, the part of imported Chinese hybrid part is increasing. That's a costly seed as compared to the local seed. So the government should give subsidy on that seed to the farmer, especially in Sindh and in Punjab. There is a delta between Ravi and Sutlej. This whole area is for non-Basmati most of the time. So I think the government should give seed subsidy. A second thing is that the fertilizer subsidy is indirectly given to the